So I've challenged myself this year, being 2021 now, with watching more modern horror films. Uh, Around 2010, I kind of got out of horror a little bit. I wasn't enjoying any of the stuff that was coming out. And in the last decade, I've missed a ton of, from what I can tell, of really good movies. I just keep going back. When I have time to watch a movie, I go back and I throw on a classic or something like that, something I've watched a dozen times. And I've missed out on a lot of good stuff, so I'm challenging myself this year to actually watch some new and modern horror films. And one that came out at the tail end of last year that a lot of my friends on REGIONFREE were speaking highly of was The Dark and the Wicked, so I really wanted to check this one out. It dropped, I think, November 6th in the US of last year. I still don't think it's available in Canada. I think it's coming to Shudder in Canada at some point this year. I don't know when. It's directed by Brian Bertino, who did The Strangers. I think he's done a bunch of other movies since then. I think he even did the sequel to The Strangers. I've only seen The Strangers. At least that's the only one that comes to mind of his movies that I've seen. And I saw that in the theater when it came out. And I can't remember when that was, but I want to say it was at least 2005, 2006. So it's been a while since I've watched any of his work. As far as I know, the cast is mostly no-name. I don't know any of the people in it. The name Marin Ireland comes to mind, but I can't think of anything that she's in. But the film stars Marin Ireland as Louise, Michael Abbott Jr. as Michael, Lynn Andrews as the caretaker nurse, Julie Oliver Touchstone as the mother, and Xander Berkeley is in there. Like I said, a very small cast, but I thought they did a really great job. The mother's performance really is, she's mostly in the start of the film, and she has a very haunting performance that hangs over the rest of the movie, which is important for the story. And I think she did an excellent job. I think Michael and Marin, Michael and Louise in the film, were, they absolutely carried the movie on their back. And Xander Berkeley pops in for basically a cameo. I didn't even know he was in the movie, and I always joke that like my superpower is being able to pick out actors and actresses in other works that they're doing, even if they're layered in makeup or CG'd or whatever. And I watched this movie I was watching him and his performance for several minutes before I realized it was even him. It's like he's channeling his own, I don't know, Brad Dourif or something like that. I just did not recognize him, but he did a really great job. His character, as I said, the priest in the film, is probably one of the better performances in the film. The premise of the film is basically a brother and sister. They come home. It feels like they've been, estranged, not only from each other but from the rest of the family as well. We don't really know why. It doesn't seem like anybody dislikes each other. They went their separate ways, and they basically come home because their father is dying, and they want to be there and help their mother and stuff like that. The mother desperately wants them to leave, tells them they shouldn't have come. They're clearly upset by her appearance and everything like that. And they come to find out that something more dark and ominous than their father even dying is happening in the house. There are like a lot of horror tropes in the movie, but I guess what's interesting is like you kind of see them coming, and then what the filmmakers have done is they recognize that they're using the horror tropes, so they've done things to twist them and change them a little bit, to amplify them or go a different path. Some of the scenes that come to mind are when the mother's chopping the carrots. If you've watched a lot of horror movies, you know what's coming when that scene's happening. But they've taken it a step further to kind of amplify the moment and make it a little bit different. The same goes for the nurse. You come to find out that she's religious, and you kind of have an expectation of what's going to happen because she's religious, and she brings like a religious talisman into the home and stuff like that, and you sort of expect something to happen that doesn't happen. They go a different path. So they've kind of got these tropes in there, and they do a good job of twisting them and changing them enough to make the movie feel fresh. There are a couple where they don't land. There was a couple of scenes in there. There's a scene with Charlie's granddaughter. If you've seen the film, you know who I mean. That just feels like something you've seen in every other supernatural horror movie. And that scene definitely didn't land with me. But I think for the most part they did a good job of switching things up enough that it felt fresh. Whatever pain or regret that the siblings have for maybe distancing themselves from the family or something like that, of course, is amplified by the situation. Their father's dying. but that seems to be it's almost like the entity or whatever is in the film, and I don't want to get in the spoiler territory, sort of amplifies that and uses that, and they get kind of locked into being there, and then those emotions just get played with and pushed to the next level, and that kind of grips you into watching this movie. It's a very bleak movie. It's a very dark movie. I usually don't go for bleak ones. I like a little mirth in my horror films a lot of the times, but this one is so well acted, and it's so well shot, and the presence in the film just it kind of drags you in, and in a way even the supernatural elements of what's going on, aren't the scariest parts. It's sort of like just dealing with reconnecting with your family and dealing with the loss of a loved one and all that stuff that really makes you connect with the characters and care about them, and ultimately the main crux of the film is the idea that evil is like a hungry animal. It doesn't follow any rules, and all it cares about is finding its next meal. And I think it's a powerful concept, and it's really interesting. We watch a lot of these movies, and there's always something that you can use to fight back. There's always some talisman. In this movie, they don't find out that something supernatural is happening in the house and go to the library and find out a bunch of information about it and figure out how to fight it and all this stuff. It's they're having a hard time coming to grips with what's even happening around them. And they get locked into the place, and it's really well written as to why they kind of get stuck there, and what's going on with them mentally, and there is no sort of finding a way to fight it. It's this immovable thing that just happened to land on this family for whatever reason, maybe because of the emotions within the family. You don't really know that anything's happened to them in the past that would cause them to be estranged or whatever, but it's there and it lays over the house maybe, and somehow this evil thing, they refer to a wolf a lot in the movie, this wolf has gotten inside the house, and there's really not much you can do to try and fight that. There's an especially kind of disturbing and haunting scene that involves Michael near the end of the film, and I have to say the actor's portrayal in that moment it really, really caught me off guard. I mean, I kind of saw what was happening as it went, but they did a good job of setting up that scene, so you kind of didn't expect it exactly, and just the horror on his face in that moment was particularly kind of haunting for me. So I ultimately really like The Dark and the Wicked. I have a Letterboxd. I gave it a 3.5 on there. I don't know if the scores on there matter. They're just what I feel in the moment, but I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's worth your time. I think it's out on Blu-ray in the States. I assume it'll be out on Blu-ray in Canada sometime soon. From what I've heard, it's not that expensive to pick up on Amazon or something like that. And I don't know what streaming services it's on right now, but I'm sure you could rent it right now somewhere. And I know it's supposed to be coming to Shudder, is my understanding, this year. So you'll have some options to see in the near future. Go pick up that Blu-ray if you can, and give this movie a watch. I think you'll really dig it. But that's my thoughts on The Dark and the Wicked. Please let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on social media, wherever, and just let me know what you thought about the movie. So until next time, cheers. Take care.